Hello, everyone. This is Karen Gans, the ECEAP Administrator with DCYF. It's wonderful to be with you here today to provide you with a licensing update. We know that there was some confusion around the appointment, and we apologize for that. We really appreciate your patience and your understanding, and we are happy to be starting with you now. So I wanted to just give a little context around how we got here today. Last year, really, it's been many years, for multiple years, many of you in the field have let us know about some conflicts and concerns that have come up for you around or that are related to alignment. And there are a number of different concerns that you consistently raised with us. They included concerns with meeting entitlement and expansion around facilities, the increasing costs of providing ECEAP, early achievers, portable background checks, and licensing. And as a result of that and our work with our think tank partners, we created a K-12 pathway work group. That work group had its first meeting in March of 2019, so almost a year ago. And that group was able to meet multiple times over the course of last year and some this year. And through that work, that group really prioritized licensing as our first key focus. And when we did that, we were able to include our licensing partners, ECEAP directors and site directors to really come to the table to help us understand the issues and start to work together to think about how we could decrease the burden for all of you at ECEAP sites. So we spent that time gathering that input from you, and then I really think the last time the K-12 Pathway Work Group met, and then again at the October Directors Meeting, we talked about what we believed was going to be a unified waiver and variance process. And as we began to work, dig into this work, we realized that we really needed to do something more robust than that, and that resulted in this coordinated monitoring effort with our partners in licensing. There have been multiple meetings that we have, work group meetings essentially here at DCYF to start to really think about what is the best way for us to be able to support ECEAP sites, to be able to support licensing staff, and to make sure that children are safe in the ECEAP facilities. So we're happy to be able to dive into the proposal that we've put forward and then the plan that we are going to begin to implement with all of you soon. Before we look at the agenda, I want to turn it over to Carrie Beamer. Carrie is managing our questions. So Carrie, do you want to share a little bit about how people can type in questions so that we can be responding to questions as they come up?
Yeah, so off to your, okay, so first of all, I have a couple people who are saying that they're having a hard time hearing. And, and wait, so, maybe you can all chat. Can you hear us now? Okay, okay. Some people are saying yes, they can hear us just fine. Okay, great. Always want to make sure folks can hear us. Perfect. So in off to the right-hand side of your screen, there is a grayed out box, and there are two places that you can sort of put in messages. There's chat, and then there's questions. But we would really like you to use the question box because it makes a record for us. So if we don't get to one of your questions, then we have a record and we can get back to it. So Karen and Peggy and Judy are going to stop periodically throughout the webinar, and we'll try and get some questions answered for you. And what we don't get to, I'm assuming, Peggy and Karen, that we will be putting out some kind of document with follow-up questions.
Correct. Thanks so much, Carrie, for managing the questions that are going to be coming in today and for explaining that information to everyone. We definitely are going to be creating an FAQ, and there will be ongoing development of materials and supports to make sure that we have lots of different ways that we're sharing this information with you. CQI specialists will be going over this information on February contractor calls as well. And as always, anytime you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us to seek clarification. So on the screen, you see our agenda today and what we're going to be talking about. You can expect official changes related to what we're going to talk about for ECEAP sites and licensing starting in your contract in July of 2020. However, we're going to be working with our licensing partners from now until that point to begin to roll this out in the coming months as we're able to do that as well. And now I'm going to turn it over to Judy Bunkelman, our partner in licensing. Judy, do you want to take a moment to introduce yourself and then say a few words?
Sure. I am Judy Bunkelman, the Child Care Licensing Administrator. And I just want to say that this has been a real collaborative effort, that we keep moving the needle on things. And I expect that we'll be doing a whole lot more work as time goes along. But I think this is a great start, and these changes, I hope, will make a difference for people. So thank you. And Karen, you did a nice job of setting it up. So thank you.
Absolutely. All right, so now I'm going to turn it over to Peggy. Want to introduce yourself?
So hi, I'm Peggy Brown, and I'm the Continuous Quality Improvement Manager, and I've played a key role in coming up with a plan with Judy and licensing and Karen and all of you that will make it so that we can move licensing forward in some sense. And just know that, you know, we put together a plan, and we're going to put it out there, and we're going to give this a try, and we need your input ongoingly so that we can continue to have this process that we're moving towards evolve and to end up being something that is the best for everyone. It is going to mean making some tech changes, which means we need to work with Compass, we need to work with ELMS, and some things cannot happen immediately, so it's going to take us some time to get through this. So on your screen right now, it says that part day, less than 4 hours. So these sites are no longer going to be required to participate in DCYF licensing. They will need to do a health and safety checklist annually that will be conducted by the DCYF license exempt team. So right now we have, believe it or not, 7,722 of our slots that meet the part day definition above, which basically are sites that only have part day slots, and they're operating those classrooms for less than 4 hours. And that is about 210 of our 390 sites. So ECEAP and licensing are working together on an opt-in process for sites that may choose to be licensed. So if you're part day and you're offering that less than 4 hours a day, you can opt to be licensed if that is what you want, but we will have an opt-in process. Licensing is taking the non-licensed sites out of WAC Compass system for licensors so that they know that they won't need to complete visits, and they will know that those licenses no longer need to be kept in place. So we'll be working together to identify the sites and to be able to move forward to have that happen. Currently, I'm compiling a list of what all those sites are, and we'll begin working with the license exempt team and with Judy and with others in licensing to create an on-site visit form that will outline what is going to be looked at, and then working with them on an on-site visiting schedule. So just know that on years when you have an ECEAP on-site monitoring visit, so when we come out every 4 years to be able to visit you and do our more comprehensive monitoring, the license exempt staff are going to join our ECEAP staff, and they'll complete that health and safety checklist as part of our DCYF ECEAP kind of combined team, and that will count as your yearly visit by them. And the one thing I want to bring up is right now, capacity on that team is a little bit of an issue. And so it's going to be a building thing along the way. So it may be that some of the sites, they're with us, and other sites, they may not, because they may not have enough staff to be able to cover every single one of the sites that we see. So the health and safety checklist is going to really focus on those areas that you see on your screen right now. So they truly are those health and safety items that are within the licensing checklist right now. And these areas will become part of that checklist that we've talked about. So in a little while, we have a document that will show you where it is, but we've attached it to the screen, and we'll go through that together. And all of these items are listed in one place, so you'll be able to see exactly what the WHAC is. So if you wanted to start looking up some of those WHACs and doing some research around it, you could. And then we will be working together on that tool. And the plan at this time is that the license exempt staff are those ones who will be doing the tool. The results then would be shared with the ECEAP staff. So your CQI specialist would then be doing that follow-up with you like they do on any other action plan. And as we have a health and safety checklist drafted, we'll be running it past you. And then when it is complete, we will be able to put that out on the website so that you'll be able to have access to that and know exactly what is on it. So on top of that, school day slots that are implemented within a school district building, we've been looking at the Schoolage Whack, and in the Schoolage Whack, they actually have some sections where it says that they don't look at things if they're within a school district building. And so we are going to work to see about the possibility and really work and advocate towards being able to add that same RCW language into the early learning section, and also to be able to add that WHAC so that you would have those items that in a school district building, because they're already monitored through the school district, would not have to be monitored by us or by licensing. And those are things such as the outdoor learning space and the equipment and surfaces outdoors, weather conditions and outdoor hazards, some of the safety requirements, including fire safety, water hazards, food prep areas, the bathroom and toileting space, safe water sources, drinking water, the lead and asbestos and other of those hazards, and the fire inspection and certification. And the other area that we really looked into was the working day slots and those of you who have licensed sites in non-school district buildings. And so this is where we did a lot of work and sat in rooms together and looked at the WHAC, looked at the ECEAP standards, and really digested all of them to say, this ECEAP monitors when they're out. It's not on the licensing checklist, but once every 3 or 4 years we can, and so those things can be looked at by ECEAP. This was quite a process that we went through, and it really and truthfully, when we take a look at this, you're going to find that a lot of things are coming back to us in ECEAP to be monitoring and taken off the load for the licensing staff when they are out doing their monitoring visits with you. So working day and school day, and anybody who would opt into the licensing their sites would be following this coordinated monitoring plan. And so we'll be, so I'm going to ask Carrie to tell you how on your screen you can find the document that I've been talking about, and we're going to just take a little tour through the document.
Yeah, so just directly at the bottom of the box, the gray box, you should see a handout. And I'm trying to remember what the name of the handout is, but it's just a Word document.
Should be, yeah. Sorry, Carrie. I was going to say it's the Early Learning Program Whack document.
Early Learning Program Whack. Yep. So you just click on it and it'll open up like a Word document.
So if you go over to page 3, it is, I'm not going to remember the colors, but we color coded it, and I have a copy in front of me, but I just looked at it and went, oh, I took all the color names off and mine is in grayscale, so I don't see colors. But we have it divided into the areas of the, so things that licensing monitors for all of the sites, but they're not on a typical schedule. They're not.
I'm wondering if we can pull the document up on the screen so that as Peggy's talking about it, we can be scrolling through it to highlight some key points.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we're going to take just a moment to pull the document up so that we'll all be looking at the same thing and that there won't be some confusion for some.
Thank you.
So in all great technological moments, of course, our wheel is spinning right now.
Yes.
So Peggy, maybe while that's being pulled up, you can continue to orient folks to the document, and then we'll get it up on the screen just as soon as we can.
So basically what I'm going to do is on page 3 there, you'll see the kind of just the key to the document. And so I just want to kind of go over the different areas that are in the document. And the first one is licensing, and this looks at the items. Licensing, let's see if I can even say this right. Licensing is going to monitor for all sites, and they are required on their typical schedule. And the items that were left in the white are those items that come up on the licensing checklist every year, every 2 years. They're the more frequently looked at items. So we're not out as an ECEAP staff to your sites often enough to really be monitoring those. The next section are those items where licensing only looks when a situation arises that warrants it. Otherwise, these are items that aren't even on the checklist. If I'm remembering right, those are in gray. The next section are the items that we took off of the licensing checklist and will be monitored by the ECEAP staff. Okay, it looks like you're seeing it on your screen now.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we are.
Thank you, because it's not on the screen I was looking at. So I'm looking at Karen's colors real quick to see where I am. So the darker green are the items that are coming back to ECEAP, and we will be monitoring those, so they won't be on the monitoring checklist. Then there are some lighter green ones where you're going to submit documentation when you turn in your licensing application, but then those will come back to ECEAP and we will do the ongoing monitoring. And if that policy or procedure or whatever it is changes, we will get that to licensing so that they have an up-to-date copy.
And when Peggy is talking about what ECEAP is going to be doing, this is what we're going to be doing through our regularly scheduled full on-site ECEAP monitoring visits with you.
The lavender color is our coordinated monitoring. There are some items on the licensing checklist that they need to be checking, and so on, but they're going to have ECEAP look at those on years that we're out doing our monitoring. So we're trying to figure out how to build into WA Compass something that would let us be a little more flexible, so that on the years that ECEAP's going out, licensing wouldn't have it on their checklist. So more to come on that, because that I think will be a kind of a complex build for them, but we're going to really give that a try. So in the kind of goldenrod color are things that where some follow-up is still needed, and what is left in that are the general staff roles and qualifications, and it just means that I personally need to take a lot more time digging through this so that Judy and I can get together and do a better comparison and figure that one piece still out. The items that you're going to find that are in blue are the things that are in the Schoolage Whack and that are not looked at in those school district buildings. And those are the things where we're proposing the change to the RCW and to the WAC so that our ECEAP sites that are within school district buildings, those would be off of their checklist. The next section that we'll be looking at is pink, and those are the items that are going to be on that health and safety checklist for our part day sites. So those are and then after that section, there is one more section that I didn't even put on here, but it just lists all the WACs that are not on the health and safety checklist, but I didn't put that up here in our key. So before we dive in and just take a little bit of a look, do we have any questions?
We do have some questions.
So I'm going to ask what Mary wrote, and hopefully, Brooke, if this doesn't answer your question, let us know. But we have a question that says, can I presume that ECEAP facilities that not only offer part-day model, but they're, say, a morning and an afternoon session, children in the building all day long, say AM and PM class, do they still have to get licensed in a school district?
So licensing is for when the particular child is there 4 or more hours. So if you have an AM session that's 3 hours and 50 minutes and an afternoon session that's 3 hours and 50 minutes, you would not need to be licensed.
And Carrie, when you read the question, you said school district at the end, and the part day rule applies to every part day slot. It doesn't, it is regardless of whether it's located in a school district location or not. So that rule that Peggy just outlined for all of you applies to all part day slots. Unless you've done something with your part day slots where you've combined hours and children attend less days per week and the child is attending for over 4 hours per day. If you have sites that have that model, then those sites will need to become licensed.
Were there other questions, Carrie, or did that cover it?
So we have another question.
Okay, so it says, so for the ECEAP sites in school districts, they would need to get an annual health and safety review and would not have to be licensed. Is that correct?
If they are part day, that is a correct answer. Yep. Our school day slots that are open over, because they're open over 4 hours a day, and our working day classrooms that are open, because they're open over those 4 hours a day, will need to be licensed.
And we'll go into that a little bit more in just a moment. That will help clarify.
Right.
Great. Do we want to hold off on questions until we go a little bit deeper?
Yeah, I think that maybe we'll put a pause on questions so that we can help everyone. It's a lot of information, so we know it's not all going to be, we're not going to be able to help to digest it together all at once, but I think that if we can give you a little bit more space, Peggy, to kind of share the overview of this, then we can loop back to questions.
Okay, and by going through this document, I think it will answer a lot of questions because things are going to look different for the ECEAP license sites than it does right now today, where licensing is looking at everything. So I think the first little section is really quick, and those are the things that really and truthfully, yes, thank you, James, are really and truthfully, they are WHAC within the licensing WHAC, and they are not something that licensing goes out and actually monitors. They are used when something comes up that pertains to that, but it isn't necessarily that they're not looked at on the checklist. Page 5. The next section, all of these items in white are the things that the license will remain on the licensing checklist. So things like the pre-service requirements, which is the licensing orientation and completing the TB test. Providing for personal and professional and health needs of staff. Indoor learning space. These are things that are on their licensing checklist over and over. Page 6 has gardens, emergency preparedness, the safe food practices, medications, diaper changing, first aid supplies, drinking water, and all of these. So these are ones that I'm trying to get past it all. So you guys can kind of go through those all together. And then the next color is, I'm waiting to see what color is the blue section. The things in blue are those items that we're going to try to change RCW for school districts and change the WHAC for school districts. So if you're in a licensed non-school district building, you would have to have all of these items on your licensing checklist, but they would come off for those school district sites.
And I think I just want to add that Peggy and Kelsey Schaefer from the ECEAP team, they are in the process of moving this request through our DCYF WHAC process so that we can have more information to you as soon as possible. I mean, we're hoping that this is going to be, we'll know if we're going to be able to do this and change this in the next couple of months.
And we will keep you up to date as we learn stuff. So that just has things like the outdoor learning space, equipment and services, weather conditions, so some of those other things like that, the fire safety. The one thing I want to point out in this is that if you're in a school district building, that would include the zoning codes and ordinances, basically the fire inspection and certification, because it is already done by the local. And so then, bottom of page 20, it turns to lavender. So going to page 21. So the next items on it are those items that are coordinated monitoring. So licensing, we'll look at them. And then on that year that ECEAP is out, we're going to put them onto our checklist and then hopefully be able to work out that system so that they can come off of the licensing checklist. Things like staff records, pets and animals, a clean, healthy environment, your center capacity, and those are on that part of the list. The next section is the light green section, where we are looking at, are those policies, procedures, and things that will need to be submitted to licensing when you first apply for your license. And then they will move to ECEAP, and then as they are updated, we will get up-to-date copies to our licensing partners. And I think the one thing I want to say here is that along with all those documents, you know, you've always had to do for ECEAP, a huge document checklist. And this is kind of bringing to the surface that is we're getting documents and we need to be able to share them with licensing as you update them, build in ELMS. And so we are working to be able to have documents uploaded into ELMS so that these policies and procedures would be able to be uploaded into ELMS, and then we could approve them and get them passed on, and it would not have to wait for a document checklist process anymore. And those include all of these policies that you see in here. Your parent handbook is in here. Emergencies, child restraint, health policies.
So Peggy, James, can we stop? Can you scroll up just a little bit? So there's some sections, whoops, right there. It's, I see it's in red.
Oh, some of the things in red were things that like the paying of fees and things that we cannot require of ECEAP parents to start with.
So it's not applicable.
So it's not applicable to us.
Okay.
We should not be charging parents. So the next section is the darker of the greens. Mm-hmm. And these are this is, to me, a very healthy list of things that are coming back to our ECEAP monitoring team. And when we are out monitoring you, we will be the ones looking at these things. Your classroom ratio, non-discrimination, developmental screenings, all your family support type of things, a lot of the trainings, staff oversight, routine care, program activities, the education piece is in here, diversity is in here. So when you start going through it, you're going to see a lot of these things are going to come off of the licensing checklist and will come and be either kept on only on the ECEAP monitoring, or will be put back on if we've taken them off in the last couple of years, trying to get things aligned so that we weren't double looking at things. We did put in here, oh, the next section is that goldenrod section, which gives you the one item that I'm still working on, which are the general staff qualifications. And as soon as we have that sorted out, we will get that information to you and update this document. Next is the fire marshal requirements. And they're just kind of listed down here so that they are within our purview and they don't fall off of our list, because one of the things we heard during the meetings that we've been having is that a lot of these are the fixes that if they have to make them, if you guys are held to this really strictly, that it costs a lot of money. And so it can make it so that you cannot use a site. And so we just wanted to make sure that we had these laid out in this so that we would have those, because one of the things to realize, if you have to be licensed, these are the things that even licensing cannot, nobody can give you a waiver or a variance for these, because it is the state fire marshal's office right now that is determining that compliance. So that this is the one place that none of us really have any give or take. So the next section, if you go down, is our pink section. So this is what applies to the part day sites that are operating less than the 4 hours. And everything in pink, which I'm just going to say is my favorite color, and that's probably why I put it in pink. So this section are all of the things that would go on the health and safety checklist. But this is all that is, basically all that at this point is planned to be on that health and safety checklist. So it's the indoor learning space, it's your outdoor learning space, equipment, safety requirements. That's, once again, the emergency preparedness. Really and truthfully, those safety things that we need to make sure are really in place. Medications, first aid supplies. So that go, and then the last section is in a lighter blue, and it is all of, just a list of all of the WAC that if you are a part day site that we're saying we're not going to be looking at. A lot of this is in the ECEAP standards already, but licensing, since they're not coming out, the only yearly check is just going to be on those pink items. So I think that this is, I want to do just a little, so I want to give you guys the page 59 is a summary of this. So I just want to I'm going to read this off here for you because this shows you I think it really gives you a good picture of what has happened. 11 WAC stays with the licensing through the application process and are not part of the licensing checklist. 34 WAC are on the licensing checklist, and that includes 21 that are shown in the white that would be for everybody, and 13 in blue that could come off if you were a school district building. 41 WAC ECEAP will be monitoring that will come off of the licensing checklist. 10 more will be addressed through coordinated monitoring. 7 are the policies and procedures that at the end of the application process will come back to ECEAP. And then of course there's the one that is still hanging out there to be finished. For part day sites, there will be 22 WAC that are going to be monitored on the annual health and safety checklist, and 77 WAC that will be taken off. So now I am so ready for questions.
So I think that as we transition to questions, I just want to take a moment to say that I think that, you know, all of this really was made possible. And maybe, James, while I'm talking, you can transition back to the PowerPoint. Mm-hmm. All of this really is possible because of our partners in licensing and their openness to look at how we could coordinate and have licensing happen differently at ECEAP sites. And part of the reason, I mean, Judy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I really believe part of the reason that this is possible is because of all of the alignment efforts that we all participated in to align our standards, because it really clearly outlined you know, who would be covering what pieces, and then where there was going to be duplication. And then I think the weighted WAC process that licensing has participated in helped them to know really what the pieces are that they needed to be focusing on, and the pieces that they felt comfortable allowing us as their partners in DCYF to focus on. And I would say the third piece for me is the creation of WAC Compass, because that system really allows us to share information and communicate much more effectively with our partners in licensing around what we are doing and finding on-site visits and what they are finding on-site visits as well. Judy, is that accurate? Is there anything else that you would add?
Nope, I just have to say it's been a real coordination of people being willing to look outside the box and getting out of our, you know, we've all had our streamline, this is what we do, this is how we've done it, and we have to put aside how we have done it and look at how we can do it. And I think it's made a big difference.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. And Peggy and I have worked most closely with Travis and Judy in licensing, and I just want to say, you know, the names that aren't listed are Kelly Bohannon and Luba, whose last name I probably can't say. But their leadership, I think, really allowed us the flexibility to be able to think outside the box. And so we're deeply appreciative of that as well.
Yeah.
So I think you have one more slide to talk about, and then we'll move into questions.
So what is on your screen right now is just a really short overview of what we've already been talking about, which is that part day, those under 4 hours, and they'll be completing that annual health and safety checklist. We have those things that are coordinated monitoring, outlining which DCYF staff will monitor which requirements and when.
And I just would add that's for school day sites and for working day sites. So that's that piece where Peggy talked earlier about how the licensing process is going to look different for everyone in ECEAP.
And then the last one, where children are served in school district settings, remember the adoption of that we'll be trying to adopt part of that school age RCW and the Schoolage Whack that will really, I think, further help our school district partners in what they're trying to accomplish and to really make it so that we're not double monitoring things.
Yeah, and so just to be clear, the school ECEAP school day slots and working day slots located in a school district setting, they would participate in coordinated monitoring, and the piece that's going to be different for them is that Schoolage Whack component piece.
Right.
So, all right, so moving on to questions. Carrie Beamer.
So let's see. So Karen, you've been able to sort of see, we have a lot. So I know we have 20 minutes. Our friends at Puget Sound ESD couldn't get the question box to work. So I got a text message. So I'm wondering if I can read their question that they had that you all are not seeing.
Sure.
So the question is, if you are contracting to use school district space, but the district itself is not the one providing ECEAP, how do licensing requirements apply?
It's in a school district building, and so that is what is going to matter. It's going to be the actual location of the classroom. So just because, so if a nonprofit has a classroom in a school building, they would be doing what that school district, they would be able to still not look at those things that would be changed by that change of RCW and that WAC. Does that make sense?
I just got a text that says that makes sense. So yeah. All right. Okay, so we left off at, and I just want to know, I think we've already sort of answered this question. It says, so for an ECEAP site in a school district, they would get an annual health and safety review or would not have to be licensed.
If they're operating under those 4 hours a day, yes. Per classroom. So if they're AM, PM, they would have services for, but not per child because it's the session length.
Our next question says, what if we have a part day combined with a full day? Is there a licensing requirement in a school district?
Yes, if they have the full day, if they have school day or working day, they would have to be licensed.
And if they're located in a school district location, then we're believing that they would, the school district, Schoolage Whack would be applied in that situation.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Do you still have to be licensed to do early achievers?
No, you won't have to be licensed to do early achievers. So their early achievers requirement will not change.
Yeah, the early achievers requirements around ECEAP are in the Early Start Act, and there's specific RCW in the law around ECEAP programs or providers who are receiving state funding must participate in the Early Achievers program.
Let's see, we have part-day slots offered 6 hours, 2 days a week in a school district.
You would need to be licensed because you have children there for over the 4 hours per day. And once again, once that RCW can change and we can get WAC changed, then those would be the rules that they would be following.
So I saw this question twice. Do the ECEAP requirements or elements apply to Head Start as well?
I do not know how to answer that, so I think that I'll have to get with Kathy Garland and see what is happening on their end to answer for the Head Start piece.
Well, I know that Judy and Kathy have been working around licensing in Head Start facilities. It is going to be different between ECEAP and Head Start, Mary Ellen, because we have our internal systems and we're able to share information and data with licensors. So although there are going to be some differences for Head Start sites, it will end up in the long run being different than ECEAP. That was sort of a confusing way to respond, but hopefully you knew what I meant. But I guess ask another question if that didn't make sense. Judy, do you have anything to add about that?
I think you're absolutely right. It will probably be very similar, but it will have to be different because of the sharing of information.
Yeah. The dark green section will not be included in the initial licensing visit, question mark?
The
dark green is what ECEAP looks at.
Correct. Dark green is what ECEAP looks at.
Mm-hmm. So it will be looked at when we come out for an on-site monitoring visit, and then we'll work on our coordination with our licensing
Mm-hmm.
partners.
I'm going to ask this question and maybe we need some more clarification. So when will we be able to upload policies for approval?
So we're just starting the build, and in my work with ELMS, our hope is by the first part of October this year, we will be able to do that. And it is a tech build, so I'm just saying what we think the possibility is.
And so for those who don't know what you're talking about, a little context is that one of the things that we're in the process of working on is creating a way to upload your policies and procedures, your documentation checklist requirements for on-site visiting into ELMS, so that you won't have to redo it every time we have a visit, that you'll be able to see what's there, whether or not it's changed since we were there last time, and then we'll be able to look at it really clearly to be able to know if it meets licensing changes or requirements as things change. Right.
Great. Wondering what the timeline will be for school district sites who have full day. Are we looking at August 1st, 2020, or will there be more time?
Yeah, you forgot the first part of that from Amy that said, thank you for your hard work. I mean, I think that we need and put the thanks and the appreciation into this as well, because I'm just going to say, Amy, this is the result of a lot of hard work. And, you know, just while I have a moment, I just want to say props to Peggy Brown and to Judy Bunkelman, because they did a lot of the heavy lifting on this and spent a lot of time digging down into a lot of details. And you can see that the document that we scrolled through today is still in draft. We are working hard to finalize that and get that posted so that you will have access to it, and that you can, you know, when we make updates to it, you'll be able to get updates quickly and easily as well in real time. So, okay, now on to the question.
And
which
Nancy
is,
says, Nancy is also saying, thank you very much for all your hard work on this. It is immensely helpful. So thank you.
Yeah, and just back out to Nancy and everyone, I want to say, you know, the people who showed up for the K-12 work group and talked about the pain points in this and really sat down with our licensing partners literally across the table from them and talked about feeling over monitored and, you know, all the different entities that monitor them. You showing up and talking about what was happening for you made a really big difference. So although I gave kudos to Judy and Peggy for all the detailed work they did, it really, all your voices helped move this process along. So back to Amy's question about school district sites who have full day slots or school day slots, that, as we're now calling them. Are we looking at an August 1st, 2020 timeline? You mean like for implementation of this?
To be licensed, right? Because right now they would be exempt.
Yeah. Yes. So this will be built into your contract for next year, and so it will be really officially July 1st. And if so Amy, you start classes in September, so you would want to start that process. We'll definitely build in supports for everyone who isn't licensed and is going to need to become licensed. So your timeline is pretty spot on, Amy.
This is Judy, and the only thing I want to caution everybody on is that neither ECEAP nor licensing has control over how soon an RCW can be changed. And the RCW would have to be updated, and then the WAC. So while we can shoot for that, we can't promise that.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification, Judy. Oh, more kudos from Mary Ellen. Thanks so much, Mary Ellen.
Hey, we have a question about part day requiring 75 square feet per child for indoor area.
It's 35 indoor, 75 outdoor.
Great. How much would licensing? How would licensing work if our preschool is part day, and then the other part day the child will be in childcare in a school district? Would our preschool have to also be licensed?
So this is a situation where children would be attending at a school district location, and they would be receiving ECEAP services part day, and then they would be transitioning to another room, I assume. And in that other room, they would be receiving what we would maybe call after school care. And you're wondering if ECEAP needs to be licensed in that situation. No.
No, they should not need to be, because they would be in that part day situation. Then they would be transitioning into the licensed care for the rest of their day.
Yeah, assuming that licensed care is, I'm going to just make an assumption that the licensed care room would be over 4 hours. That room would have to be, or that would have to be licensed. Right.
So Amy just wanted to clarify too, that she understands that there needs to be more work around the Schoolage Whack, but still wondering about a possible timeline.
Yeah, so we'll, as soon as we have that information, Amy, we will definitely be getting that to you. Yep.
Okay, so let's talk about what is the specific WAC and RCW for school-aged?
You would ask.
That's Sandy Nelson asking you that, just so you know.
Thank you, Sandy. Schoolage Whack. Judy, do you know the Schoolage Whack? I call it an address write-off.
How about while you look that up, I speak to the comment just above that comment from Stacy.
Sure.
Which is, Stacy, you just brought up a comment about the transitional kindergarten and school districts feeling a desire to do that instead of a program, instead of doing ECEAP school day where there would be some licensing requirements, even though they would be less than what would be the current requirement. And yes, we really understand that, and we know that, and we are beginning some work with OSPI around transitional kindergarten and sort of how it fits in the landscape and what we can do to collaborate and coordinate. Currently, Kelly Bohannon is leading that work, and we will definitely be sharing more information with all of you as we have it. But I just want to say we hear the concern, we feel it too, and we are also feeling really motivated to come up with some different solutions.
So Sandy, the school age WAC is WAC 110305.
Great. So Carrie would also like to know, when will school districts have to submit licensing applications?
So we'll be figuring out the timelines and things, and we'll get that information to you just as soon as we can, because we know that you guys need a lot of lead-in time.
And let's see, Mindy has a question. Will Part Day be able to request waivers for 360 hours for the 2021 program year?
Because of our requirements.
Yeah.
So I think, yes, they will be able to request a waiver for less hours if they can't meet what is in the standards.
And so that's an ECEAP requirement, Mindy. That is not a licensing requirement. And so we, of course, call that an exception. And you can always submit an exception, and then that goes before our team, and then we really look at whether or not that's something that seems reasonable, and that whether or not you're meeting the intention of what that standard is. So.
This is for Carrie again. For those Part Day slots that are now licensed, will be monitored by licensing this year, or do we need to turn in our license now?
Judy, do you want to ask Judy?
So Judy, what are your thoughts on that? Because we didn't get a definitive answer from our ask of others.
Off the top of my head, I would say if they're operating less than 4 hours a day, then per RCW, they are not required to be licensed. And so they could choose to close. If they remain open, they will receive a monitor visit before June 30th.
So I'm going to ask you a question, Judy. So if I get you a list of our Part Day sites, and I have CQIs really quickly, just check in with contractors of the ones that want to close them, they're out their licenses. Could we do that this coming week?
Probably, but I do want to verify that I'm giving you correct information. So for the RCW, I believe that would be fine, but I will want to double check it.
Okay, so we'll let everybody know as soon as we know, get a firm answer to that.
Yep, but if you get me that list, we'll certainly start working on it.
All right.
Well, we're going to get you that list.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know it's on my list for tomorrow and Monday.
And the one thing
Marian,
I would want to know is that those sites all say, yes, we do not wish to remain licensed.
okay, Mary Ellen's just said thank you. She thanks you for the answer. And this is from Jackie Brock. She said, we really appreciate all the work that has gone into this process to ensure that we are reducing monitoring burdens on our systems. We know that a number of years ago, the AG ruled that the department did not have the legal authority to license quasi-government entities, including cities, colleges, school districts, and ESDs. Has that ruling changed?
So Jackie, I don't know that I would call it a ruling. I think that makes it sound more formal than it was. We got guidance from the AG's office around that at some point. That was prior to the Early Start Act and prior to other requirements that have come into place since then. We can definitely bring that back to Travis and Judy, and I don't know, Judy, do you have any more to say about that?
I keep muting myself and then have to try and unmute. I think I would want to give a more studied response to that.
Okay.
I don't want to go off the top of my head today.
Yeah.
But I certainly will be happy to look into it.
Perfect. So Jackie, Judy, and Peggy, and I, and Travis, we'll talk some about this, and we'll see where we stand with that. I know I've had conversations with Travis about this in the past, and that really it was legislation that's happened since then that had us moving in the direction that we did with our aligned processes, and we were able to specifically identify the school district processes that are required to be in place that resulted in us being able to come up with this coordinated effort with licensing at DCYF, which is harder in those other entities because those same requirements don't exist. But we will get specific information and provide a response as soon as we can.
Great. And Debbie's just wondering when the documents that you shared are available for them to share.
So knowing that the document that I put in there is still drafty, and I don't want draft taken off of it, I think that you guys could use that as a reference document now. And as soon as we have that final copy so I can take draft off of it, we will post it on the website. And then we'll make sure that everybody knows that it has gotten posted. It's not a secret squirrel document. Some of you have gotten phone calls from me about a secret squirrel document, and this isn't secret anymore. It is out there to be used, just knowing that the things on it are still being worked on.
So we could put a current version up, would you say like within the next week or two?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll work to get it posted as soon as possible, and then we'll send out some communication to everyone via email to let you know when it's posted so that you have it. Knowing that we're going to continue to update it, which we'll put on the document, and we'll ask you all to check back, and we'll make sure CQI specialists let you know when it's updated. I'm making up names for people now. All right. Okay.
Okay. So
hey, Amy, I hear.
Amy's, go ahead. Amy's question is that many of them don't work over the summer, and so that only gives them a few months to get this all together.
Yeah, we'll work with you, Amy. We'll, you know, maybe what can happen is you can start having conversations with maybe Peggy and your CQI specialist can set up a call to talk you through this.
Yeah. So everybody do feel very open to reach out to your CQI specialist with questions that you have or supports that you need and things, so that as a team we can work together to make this an easier process for you.
Yeah. Oh, look at that, Bob.
Thank you.
Putting in the Schoolage Whack for us, Bob. We finally just got to it.
Great, thank you. Lots of thank yous from Margaret and Sandy and Stacy. From Amy, she says 0401 says no licensing fees for sites with ECEAP slots. Is this accurate?
Yes. Licensing does not charge that licensing fee to our ECEAP sites. So if a site has 4 ECEAP children and 20 non-ECEAP children, they are not charged a licensing fee.
Okay, this is from Nate. Oh, go ahead.
Carrie, I just have another point, and the reasoning behind that is because you're receiving state dollars to implement ECEAP, so then you would be taking state dollars and you would be paying those dollars back to the state, and so that was deemed to be inappropriate.
This is from Nancy. If sites are currently licensed, do we need to continue to contact licensors for situations that arise between now and when we receive approval for closing out our license, i.e. accident reports, CPS reports?
So at this point, until I send out that email, I would, because you would still legally be classified as licensed, I would follow through on that requirement. Once that license is gone, then there'll be some guidance in there on what to do moving forward.
And Judy, I just want to check with you if you agree with that. Oops, I think you're on mute, Judy.
I was, sorry. Yes, I do agree with that. Until the license is actually closed, they should continue to follow licensing requirements.
Okay.
All right. This is from Beth. We have school district sites that operate both part-day classrooms and school-day classrooms. Will we be able to license just the school-day classrooms?
So Judy,
sorry, I didn't
chime
quite
in
hear
and
that.
comment, but my thought is that,
Go ahead.
my thought is that yes, they would be able to license just that full day or working day classroom and not need to license the part day classroom.
Right.
Yeah, and we already have that model in some parts of our state where the classrooms that operate over 4 hours are licensed and the ones that operate under 4 hours are not licensed in the same building.
Debbie just had a comment that she says this is long overdue. I'm glad to see a coordinated effort finally happening. Good job. And Beth also said, thank you for all your efforts. It's very much appreciated. Jackie said, thank you.
Carrie, can I interrupt for a moment, please? I just want to say that it is really exciting to, so long ago to have started the aligned standards efforts to now be at the place where, there are differences that we always wanted to have for communities and for sites starting to be implemented. So thanks for acknowledging and recognizing that, Debbie. It's been, the alignment process was very long and drawn out, and so it's really nice to be at the coordination part of this.
Okay, And Jackie just said, thank you. I think that this will be very helpful, especially as districts are considering transitional kindergarten and ECEAP. Okay, from Sandy, if a center or subcontractor has more child care children than ECEAP funded children, will they be treated as a child care for licensing purposes?
So probably blended funding in a classroom is what Sandy's talking about.
So if they have children in licensed care and they're in the same classroom, then that classroom would have to be licensed. They could, if they're in separate rooms, they could have a classroom of all ECEAP that's all it's used for, and that classroom would not have to be licensed.
Okay, Amy just was saying she had typed 3 different things, but she got her answer, her question answered. So thank you, Amy. And this is from Tammy. Tammy says, I have to pay, but I'm wondering if that is because I have Head Start classrooms in addition to my Head Start / ECEAP combined classrooms. Thoughts on that?
So if you have ECEAP children on a child care license, you should not need to pay any of the licensing fees for that site. So if you are, please just shoot me an email and let's see what we can do.
Okay. Great. It looks like Talina was able to type in a question. Great. So this says, thank you so much for the work that you've done on coordinated monitoring. Given that there is still additional work and oversights for those who are not yet licensed, but will have to become licensed, what conversations have been happening with early achievers, given that reciprocity points for ECEAP are gone, which means significant amount of additional work?
Yeah, thanks so much for that question, Talina. So as part of when I talked in the beginning, and you know this, Talina, because you were part of the K-12 pathway work group, early achievers was definitely one of the items that we knew that we needed to continue to work on. And it really is an item that we've already started working on with our partners in early achievers here at DCYF. I'm sorry that we're not further along in that work around coordination, and we have some meetings this week actually that I think will give us some more information and will allow us hopefully soon to be able to share out some proposed ideas and to get some feedback from all of you on that, to see what pieces we might be missing in that and some other ideas that you might have for us. The input people gave us in the K-12 work group around the licensing pieces really helped us create this and craft this. So we're going to want to make sure and reach out to all of you around that as well. So while there is some work that has happened and is continuing to happen, we're obviously not as far along as we are with licensing. But we are committed.
Great. And Talina also had another question about if this PowerPoint was going to be available for them to see.
Sure. I mean, we can post this on the website along with the document. And, you know, maybe for this one, we post the notes section just so the additional details can be shared. So we'll clean that up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Sandy says, incredible work, everyone. Thank you for working so diligently on this. Another question from Talina. Has licensing name officially changed to Early Learning Licensing?
So Judy, your real title on things is Early Learning Program Licensing, is that correct?
I'd have to look. I know.
This is what happens when we change names too often. I'm just saying.
I know that I'm still the Child Care Licensing Administrator, but I would need to look. Travis, if you're on this call, can you respond?
So it's,
Okay, we'll give Travis a check-in, a minute to respond to that, and we can move on.
It says, this again is from Debbie. It says, if sites want to license their part-day program, can they?
yes, they can. We will have a little bit of an opt-in process that we'll use, but yes, you will be able to license those sites.
So Tammy's going to send you an email.
Let's see, from Stacy. I need clarification on what Peggy just shared. Most of our slots are in licensed child care centers. Those centers pay licensing fees each year. Should they not be paying those fees because ECEAP students are in their buildings?
Correct. They should, if you have ECEAP slots within that child care license, you should not be paying licensing fees. So I guess, and then an add-on to that is that it has been found that the report that licensors pull that information from in WA Compass is not accurate. I have worked with Bob Kerwin and got him a corrected list so that they do have a current list of who the ECEAP sites are now. But a lot of times the name on the child care license isn't necessarily the same name that is also on the ECEAP site, and there are other things that have caused some issues in trying to line things up. So I had to actually go to the license numbers to be able to correct the WA Compass report. So if a licensor comes and they're trying to charge you your licensing fee at a site where there are ECEAP slots, the admin assistants for them have been reaching out to me and saying, is this site a licensed site with ECEAP slots? Should I be charging them? So have them do that. Have them reach out and ask the questions so that I can verify that, yes, you should not be paying that fee.
Yeah, so Stacy, Peggy will email you to talk about ways to support you with this. And Talina's asking a clarifying question around, aren't licensing fees per slot, so you wouldn't pay for ECEAP slots? So you may pay, no?
You don't pay for any of the slots in the site if they have ECEAP slots.
Okay. And it looks like Travis got back to us and told us that child care licensing has not changed. Is that right, Travis?
Oh, okay, so it's just the name on the licensing standards that has changed, the Early Learning Program Licensing, whatever, WHAC or whatever it is. Okay.
I don't see anybody so far, but I guess we can give a few more minutes.
So I think that this is Karen one more time, and I just want to say that we know that this is not a solution. This is not fixing everything, and we know that it is not going to sort of meet the needs of every site. We hope that it helps in your conversations with your subcontractors, for folks who are located in school district locations, and that it relieves some of the pressure that we know you all are experiencing currently as you are trying to ensure that there's consistent ECAP programming in your communities. As always, we really appreciate your feedback and input to let us know where we've missed something or what we need to be paying attention to. So keep that information coming our way.
And Debbie was just wondering if there was a way to get some documentation, or is there something that already exists around licensing fees?
I can get something. I know that back when we first said it, there was a document, but let me find what I've got and I'll get something to you, Deb. We'll get it out to everybody.
Yeah, that's maybe a one-pager, right?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. So, looks like there's one more comment from Talina. Do you want me to read that, Carrie? Do you want to?
I will. It says, this is a very hard sell to have entities who are not doing childcare to become licensed under that name. Please change it to reflect a bigger umbrella of early learning.
Thanks very much for that feedback, Talina. I'm sure Travis and Judy will take that under consideration. Because really, in our conversations with them, they agree, that they understand that there's a larger umbrella. So thanks for your input.
So is that the end of our questions? So next step. Okay, so our next steps are we're planning and implementing builds in Walk Compass and ELMS to help us through this process. We're going to be developing a lot of different communications for contractors, for our CQIs, for licensing staff, so there'll be information out there and it will live on the website in the end. We're going to be developing trainings for the licensing staff, for CQIs, for ECAP staff, so that everybody is on the same page, and we're going to really work together with licensing so that we can have a system that truly looks the same in one part of the state than it does in another part of the state. So we have that consistency. And it's my pleasure to be able to say that we're going to be continuing to collaborate with our licensing staff, because this has been an enjoyable journey through this, really, because they have been just wonderful to work with. And I can't give them enough praise for the amount of work that has gone into doing this, and their willingness to listen and their willingness to change. So I just really have to say thank you.
All right, I'm not seeing any other questions in the question box, so we'll wrap things up. We will create an FAQ out of this webinar, and and prior to that and getting that posted, we will post the PowerPoint for all of you to be able to use and share with your sites and staff, and we will also get that larger document posted on the website for you to be able to use as well. Thanks everyone for your participation and time, your patience at the beginning of the webinar. We really appreciate it. We hope you have a great rest of your week, and we'll be in touch with you soon about all kinds of ECAP topics, I'm sure. All right, thanks, bye.
Thank you.